All the bands want to get their albums out before their big May and June tours, so that means this last week in April is stacked. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, JonBarbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's album art of the week. It's the weekend. That means we got new metal albums to talk about, and I'm bringing you my 5 favorite. But as always, before we do the top 5, we got to talk about the big bands that released albums this week, and there is a lot. So let's get it. Probably the biggest metal band in the world that has such a high volume of people that claim that they aren't metal, Ghost with their newest record, Skeletor. Now, I wonder if some of those same people that say Ghost isn't metal would also say the same about all the bands that Ghost sounds like. And one of my favorite bands ever, Machine Head, has a new record, Unatoned, yet another release from Machine Head that says, "We still got it, and nobody else sounds like us." And in yet another edition of Crazy Death Metal Fan discovers a huge metalcore band they didn't know about, Landmarks from France, with their new record, The Darkest Place I've Ever Been. But hey, I have heard of this metalcore band, Employed to Serve, with Fallen Star, heavy metalcore out of England. And let's just keep that heavy metalcore thing going. Caliban, back from hell, this time out of Germany. And according to the band, their name is pronounced Helveti, and their new record, On Symphonic Folk Melodic Death Metal out of Switzerland. If you're into Celtic music that's super heavy, I got my hands on this one early. Y'all know what that means. My written reviews already published in Metal Digest. Links in the description to all my writings. And one more before we do the top 5. This week's podcast guest and horror punk titan, Wednesday 13, with his latest record, Mid-Death Crisis. This time, he's making it heavy. Now let's do the top 5. Coming in at number 5, Changeling, with their self-titled debut, progressive death metal out of Germany, and the mastermind behind this project goes by the name Fountainhead. He's been on hundreds of releases, many of which you will have heard already from tech dev giants like Obscura and Defeated Sanity. So when you've got a guitar player that's this good, this talented, this in demand, expectations will be high for their solo debut, and Changeling definitely not only meets those expectations, but exceeds them, and I would argue at times even does too much. Coming in at number 4, Game Over, Face the End, thrash metal out of Italy. Now, when we talk about thrash metal, most people think about the Bay Area, and rightfully so. However, bands like Creator and Sodom, they have solidified the European scene as a legitimate source of thrash metal. And with this record, I would say that Game Over stamps their name into the continent's pantheon. This is killer stuff here. I love how it sounds old school, but their new singer's voice is powerful, and he doesn't rely on 80s tropes, so it never sounds dated. Nice clarity on this recording, and the guitars, they're shredfest like they should be for thrash metal, but it's never overdone. Everything is nice and spirited, punchy, fun gang chants. It's just solid thrash metal. You're gonna have a great time here. Coming in at number 3, Eyes with Spinner. And this is noise/hardcore out of Denmark. It begins with this silly and whimsical intro that sounds like the intersection between 80s aerobics and an anime soundtrack. It puts the listener in a place that's unprepared for the coming onslaught, because when those first riffs hit, it is tremendously heavy. Y'all know I'm a huge death metal fan, so to me, death metal is the benchmark of what heaviness should be. And here we have this decidedly not death metal band being just as heavy, definitely rising to that benchmark. And The simplistic hardcore riffs are deceiving because they are quite clever. There's lots of cascading melodies in these riffs, and the arrangements of the noise aren't random. It's all with dynamics in mind, which keeps this thing so fresh, so heavy from the beginning of the second track all the way to the end. Absolutely, you need to check this one out. Coming in at number 2, and forgive my pronunciation, Aurea, The Future Wants Us Dead, progressive groove metal out of Greece. And it did not take me long after starting this record to be enamored. They've got the intense and compelling groove of a band like Gojira. They've got the unpredictable rhythms of a band like Fear Factory and the quirky progressiveness of a Mastodon. Now, I'm naming these 3 bands because you can definitely hear the influences on Aurea. You can definitely hear very familiar moves here, and that familiarity will lull you into a sense of comfort, only for you to be jolted right out of it by some of the unexpected choices and melodies that this band makes. So I am thrilled with this one. I would like to hear in the future for them to grow in a direction where their influences aren't quite so obvious, but just how strong their foundation is on this one, I am a huge fan already, and I can't wait to see where they go from here. And hey, before we do number 1, check this out. All right, let's see what we got here from our good friends at Reigning Phoenix Music. Meshuggah. I gotta tell you, I really like this special edition of Immutable's album cover a lot more than I do the original. This is textured, by the way. And it includes a couple of live versions of the song as bonus extras. There's the original cover, if you do like that one better. There's what the vinyl looks like. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, 2 discs. Listen, if you don't already have a copy of Immutable, I very much recommend the extra special edition. If you already have Immutable, hey, maybe only if you're a Meshuggah mega fan. But either way, make sure you catch Meshuggah on tour right now with Cannibal Corpse and Carcass. If you're curious what that might be like, my pictures of my experience in Atlanta seeing Meshuggah are on heavymetalphilosophy.com. You can go check those out. Coming in at number 1, Kardashev, Alunia, progressive death gaze out of Arizona. This record is the constant collision of pensive and reflective tenderness with extraordinary ugliness. One time, a female friend of mine took a picture of a rat that was dead in the gutter on the side of the road, and the wind had swept leaves and flower petals all around the corpse of this rat, which made sort of like a wreath. That's the kind of beautiful ugliness that this record has. As longtime subscribers know, Dealer's Choice is the segment that allows me to break the rules. I can pick an EP when this show normally only does albums, and I can pick albums that aren't necessarily metal. That's what I'm doing this week because I don't care what he does. I'm such a fan. Anything that comes out from Matt Heafy, I'm about it. So this week, we got his first stab at doing a score. We've got the True Believers soundtrack from Matt Heafy. This is a anime/comic book soundtrack. Quite interesting, quite a departure. Not something we would expect from a metal legend. And that's why he's a legend. Love me some Matt Heafy. Now let's do the album art of the week. My favorite album art this week comes from the death metal legends Cancer and this inverted world, which is exactly the way I feel about the world I live in. And that's why this album art speaks to me so much. You got the priest on top of the ziggurat overseeing a ritual sacrifice. But notice there's a loudspeaker on top of the guillotine. That means this is modern times. And notice that the druids or witches or whatever that are on top of the ziggurat also performing the ritual sacrifice. They are laughing, they're enjoying this. And this is the way I feel about the world that's happening right now. Again, the loudspeaker says this is the modern world. I feel like if I was back in the ziggurat ritual sacrifice times, I would have been the guy in the crowd going, you don't think we really gotta sacrifice people to appease the gods? Or do you think that maybe our politicians just enjoy this a little bit too much? Hey, if you made it this far, you're an MVP. Because there's 3 ways you can support heavy metal philosophy, and the first and the most important way is what you've just done, watching to the end, hitting the like button if you liked any of these bands. That's the biggest help you can do, and it's much appreciated. If you want to go above and beyond, head to JonBarbas-shop.fourthwall.com and check out some of the killer merch there. And if you're curious about that Wednesday 13 podcast, you can click here. That also really helps. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.